The sky was gray, and the wind whispered through the tall field grass as Sarah looked around in panic. Her heart dropped when she realized Ryan was gone, again. Just a few seconds ago, her 4-year-old had been walking quietly beside her. Now he was nowhere in sight. "Ryan!" she shouted, running across the uneven field. Then, she saw him, standing stiffly near a ditch, completely still. His eyes were locked onto something below. Sarah rushed toward him, breathless. "Ryan! What are you doing?" But he didn't look at her. Instead, he slowly raised his hand and pointed downward. Sarah leaned over the edge of the ditch and gasped. Lying in the mud was a large German shepherd, unmoving, barely breathing. The dog's chest rose and fell with shallow rhythm. Ryan stepped forward slowly. Then, without warning, he whispered a word. Sarah froze. It was the first word he'd ever spoken. For 4 years, Ryan had been completely silent. Not a laugh, not a cry, not a single sound. Specialists had run dozens of tests. No medical issue, they had said. Possibly trauma-related. Sarah had spent countless nights crying beside him, wishing for just one word, one sign that her son could hear her. And now, standing by a ditch in the middle of nowhere, her son had just spoken. One fragile word, dog. She could barely breathe. "Ryan, did you just—" He didn't answer. He only knelt slowly at the edge of the ditch, staring down at the lifeless animal. His fingers curled around a tuft of grass, his gaze locked onto the dog's face. Sarah looked closer. The German shepherd was breathing, but barely. What was it about this injured animal that stirred something inside her son? Her heart pounded as she realized something powerful was happening. Without thinking, Sarah climbed into the ditch, her shoes sinking into wet mud. The dog whimpered softly as she gently touched its side. "Easy, you're okay," she whispered, trying to reassure both the dog and herself. Ryan watched from above, completely focused. His hands were clenched, his jaw tight. Sarah could feel the dog's ribs. He was starving, cold, and injured. With great effort, she cradled the limp shepherd in her arms and struggled out of the ditch. Ryan backed away, making space, but his eyes never left the dog. They reached the car, and Sarah wrapped the dog in Ryan's blanket from the back seat. As they drove home, Sarah peeked into the rearview mirror. Ryan was gently stroking the dog's head. There was something in his eyes, not just curiosity, but connection. That moment, Sarah understood, this wasn't just a rescue. This was the beginning of something far deeper. At home, Sarah laid the dog gently on a towel in the living room. He didn't move much, but his eyes followed Ryan. The boy sat on the floor beside him, silent. The entire room felt heavy, like something sacred was unfolding. Then, Ryan did it again. He whispered, "Shadow." Sarah's head snapped toward him. "What did you say?" she asked. Ryan looked up, his lips trembling, then repeated, a little louder this time, "Shadow." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. That was the second word her son had ever spoken, and it was a name. The name he chose for the dog. Shadow blinked slowly, as if acknowledging it. Ryan leaned forward and gently placed his hand on Shadow's paw. That simple touch held something powerful, a wordless understanding between two wounded souls. Sarah knelt behind her son, overwhelmed. Her silent child had found a voice, through a dog barely clinging to life. Over the next few days, Sarah nursed Shadow back to health. Water, soft food, quiet comfort. Ryan stayed beside him constantly. He fed him, brushed his fur, and whispered softly. Every time he spoke, Sarah froze in awe. It started with short phrases, "Good boy, sleep now, love you, Shadow." And Shadow responded, wagging his tail, licking Ryan's hand, even whining gently when Ryan left the room. The doctors couldn't believe it. One said, "It's like the dog unlocked something inside him." Ryan's speech blossomed faster than anyone expected. But it wasn't just about speaking, it was how alive he became. He smiled more. He played. He looked Sarah in the eyes and said, "Mom." That one word made her knees buckle. She held him close and cried. Shadow didn't just become their pet. He became the bridge between silence and sound, fear and courage. Ryan was finally coming back to life. One night, Sarah heard soft murmurs coming from Ryan's room. She crept to the doorway and peeked in. There, under the glow of a nightlight, Ryan lay curled beside Shadow on the floor, whispering stories. "I found you in the mud," he said gently. "You were cold. But I'm here now." Shadow thumped his tail softly, licking Ryan's cheek. Sarah bit her lip, overwhelmed. Her son wasn't just talking, he was connecting. She realized something else too. Ryan was talking about feelings. Safety. Fear. Friendship. All the things he had locked away inside him for years were now pouring out in these gentle conversations with his four-legged friend. Shadow wasn't a therapy dog, but he didn't need to be. He was simply present, and that was enough. That night, Sarah sat by their door, silently crying tears of gratitude. Her son had found his voice, and someone who truly listened. One afternoon, Sarah took Ryan and Shadow to the field for a walk. Everything felt normal until Shadow suddenly stopped. His ears perked up, and he began growling low. Ryan froze, his small hand clutching Shadow's fur. Sarah looked around, confused. That's when she saw it, a large snake, slithering just a few feet away in the grass. Before Sarah could react, Shadow lunged forward, placing himself between the snake and Ryan. The snake hissed but then retreated into the brush. Sarah's heart pounded as she grabbed Ryan and pulled him back. Shadow stood guard until the danger was gone. Ryan, visibly shaken, looked up at his mother. "Shadow saved me," he whispered. It was a chilling moment. Sarah realized that this dog, once broken and abandoned, had now become her son's protector. Their bond wasn't just emotional, it was primal. Shadow had risked his life, again. Shadow's limp never fully healed. Sarah began noticing he struggled more after walks, and sometimes winced when lying down. The vet's words haunted her. "He's older than we thought. Injuries from before may shorten his life." Sarah kept this from Ryan, not ready to break his heart. But one morning, Shadow didn't get up. Ryan tried everything, calling, petting, pleading. "Wake up, Shadow," he said softly. "Please." The dog stirred, barely. The vet came quickly. He gave pain meds and said, "Just let him rest. It may be time soon." Sarah watched Ryan lie beside Shadow for hours, stroking his fur and whispering, "Don't go." That night, Ryan looked at Sarah with eyes full of tears and asked, "Will Shadow go back to the ditch?" Sarah shook her head, holding back sobs. "No, sweetheart. He's not going back there ever again." But deep inside, she feared that day was near. That morning, the house was too quiet. Sarah entered Ryan's room and found him curled up next to Shadow again. But something felt different. Ryan's hand rested still on Shadow's chest. No rise, no fall. No breath. The dog was gone. Ryan looked up at her, his voice cracking. "He's sleeping." Sarah knelt, hugged him tightly, and whispered, "He's dreaming now, baby. He's free." The funeral was quiet, just the two of them in the backyard under the big tree. Ryan placed his drawing, a picture of him and Shadow, inside a small box with a dog's collar. He whispered one last word, "Thank you." Sarah didn't try to hold back her tears this time. Shadow had entered their lives from a ditch, and left with a boy's heart forever changed. In silence, he came. And through silence, he gave Ryan his voice. Months passed. Ryan started school and quickly became the most talkative child in class. His teachers were amazed at how expressive and creative he was. He spoke of his best friend named Shadow. Every story, every drawing, somehow included that German shepherd. Sarah kept Shadow's collar in a frame above Ryan's bed, and every night Ryan would look at it before sleeping. "He's still here," he'd say. And maybe, in a way, he was. Ryan no longer feared the world. He faced it bravely, confidently, and lovingly, all because a broken, dying dog had trusted him. The town still remembered the boy who had never spoken, until he met the dog in the ditch. It was a story no one could forget. And to this day, whenever Ryan talks about Shadow, his voice softens, not with sadness, but with something stronger. Gratitude.